Welcome to Champions of Data and AI. I'm your host, Chris D'Agostino, for today's episode. Joining me today is Dr. Michael Zimmer. He's the Chief Data Officer of Zurich Insurance Company of Germany. Michael, thanks for being on Champions of Data and AI.
Thanks for being here, and I hope we'll have a good talk about data and the fun stuff which we can do with it.
Sounds great. Well, I'm sure you've seen many of the studies that talk about the vast percentage of AI projects that don't really end up returning business value. There are some studies that say as many as 87% of the initiatives fail to return some kind of business value. You actually have done quite a good job running your team and delivering use cases that are making a big difference and helping to reduce costs. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you see your AI investment, what you have done that you feel others could benefit from in terms of structuring the teams, setting up the use cases, rolling out the actual technology?
Okay, so I think what we are doing quite strict is business first. So we come from the business, we discuss with them, we define a benefit, and based on this, we check how we can support with AI. I think in the beginning there's a problem, and normally ever we can help with AI. So I think that's a good starting point. But besides that, when I joined Zurich, the deal we did was my AI area is a cost center, so I need to refund my team by saving. So from day one, it was sure that we need value cases, we need something for the soul, but we had this in the DNA, and also my team was understanding quite fast that it's important to see, to get the success, and to bring things up and running. So we don't do data science for the sake of doing art. It's more or less to help the business. And if we can help the business with a more simple approach, we go for the simple one instead of having fancy data science in the end, without any outcome. So we are focused on the benefit. We work together, and the business trusts us now also because we say what's not working. And based on this, our challenge is not to bring the things into production. If we decide the case is good and we are able to do it, I would say 80% of our cases in the backlog will be delivered. So there we are quite good.
That's great. Yeah. Can you give the audience just kind of a summary of what Zurich Insurance Germany focuses on in terms of the types of insurance, what type of data science, actuary style work, for example, what type of data science is most relevant to you and your team?
So if I look at the German Zurich branch, we are supporting all kinds of insurances besides health. This means we have motor, we have life insurance, but we also have industry insurance. So from huge buildings, train tracks, till pension stuff, we are supporting everything. So one thing which is important for me, my AI team can't do everything. We need the business because our business is so diverse that we need to enable them with our knowledge. And when we see what we are focusing on, so there are things, end-to-end digitalization, where we say we want to replicate better OCR, better extraction of stuff, voice things. This is something which we do mainly in claims because there is volume. But besides that, in underwriting, we make sure that, for example, 150-page documents that needs to be read every year and needs to be compared with another 200-page document, that the underwriters get the information they need and don't sit weeks to make sure that the risks are in both of them. So this is something where we invest. But besides that, it's also fraud predictions. But what's also important, sometimes you don't need the pure benefit. It's also about giving something back to the people and show them that we can build something quite fast, that we can bring a functionality which is not so useful but was requested. So it's a huge mix from OCR-based things we are scaling, to chatbots, to fraud, supervised and unsupervised things. So my data scientists, I would say, are doing broad range.
That's great. That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges associated with that. If you're deploying AI, and you're needing to do a bunch of underwriting, processing of claims. You've got economic and energy concerns that are happening globally, right? There's climate concerns with, you know, the the storms that just went through Florida, for example, caused, you know, unprecedented amounts of damage that insurance companies are going to need to be able to help those citizens recover from. Germany, part of the EU, highly regulated, you know, GDPR compliant. You've got ethics considerations. You've got something called the Workers' Council that might have an outsized influence on AI. Can you tell the audience a little bit about how all of these sort of global phenomenons and maybe things that Germany is doing specifically, like around the ethics and the Workers' Council, how that influences your team in terms of the ability to build models and deploy them in a way that you feel can be trusted?
So you mentioned in the last sentence can be trusted, and I think that's the important thing. For me, having strict GDPR, working together with Workers' Council, with compliance, I don't see it as something bad. I see it as a chance because it's always about getting trust from the customers, from our workers, from the people. And if I look at the teams we are working together, the Workers' Council helps me to get the topic to the company. The ethical AI thing is something where we can generate trust with the people. And I don't know how it is in US, but if we look at our workers, sometimes they are afraid of change. They are afraid of AI. And we can show them, by the way, you don't need to be afraid. AI is supporting you. Like, for example, the parrot in a mine, which shows there's some gas or stuff like that. It's supporting us. It's not getting us away. So for me, GDPR, Workers' Council, they help us to make an even better product. Also, as we have some kind of data commitment where we say we want to use the data just for the good of our customers. So I would say it's supplementing each other. Nevertheless, if I see what kind of checks I'm doing, we have nice structures, we are audited, but also the principle is talk to the people as soon as possible because I want to discuss them. I want to generate something with them instead of waiting and having in the end, oh, by the way, you are not allowed to do that. So let's fail fast also in our compliance topics and talk with the people, because if we succeed easily, we get closer to the 80% of success rate, which I mentioned in the beginning. And the people really like it, how we are working.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about partnering with those business stakeholders? You know, what we've found here at Databricks is, you know, a need to really change the data literacy within organizations and really help, say, non-technical stakeholders within the organization better understand what machine learning and AI can actually do, what types of algorithms are deployed, what's, you know, to some degree, the mathematics or the logic behind these different algorithms, and help them sort of just disambiguate or demystify AI. Is that part of your role within the organization, is to help explain some of these more complex technical topics to the broader stakeholder audience?
So one of my main tasks is to build bridges between business, our top leadership, technology. That's for sure. But if we look at how we demystify AI, so for me, there is much hype in media. If we look what's behind, it's not that complex. And you mentioned to get the people understanding AI. I believe most of the users that are using AI in the end to get better results, to get recommendations, they don't need to understand fully the algorithm. They don't need to know why the model is like it is. But what's important is the explainable AI part, that we take them closely into the development process, that they see what changed, how it's working, to give them a feeling and also have some KPIs in the end that they understand, by the way, the model gave this recommendation because this kind of attributes were in there or stuff like that. They need to understand why. And it's not the model, it's more or less the kind of rules which the model identifies or the similarities. This helps us to bring the people. In the end, they don't want and they don't need to know the mathematics. But if they trust us, if they trust the development cycle, and if they get regular results, they will use it. And what I saw at other insurances where they said AI is quite good if the people don't interfere. If people are in there, the people want to see if AI is doing really right or wrong. We don't have this problem. So even with the ones where we support the people, they take it in the end as someone who's helping them. And I think it's really because they get a feeling why it's like that. It's no black box. And they also try to understand why we are doing it. And they are learning quite well. So one of the first cases was claims people who told me, Mike, I don't think that we can have any AI case in my claims area. I said, challenge accepted. We had a coffee. We made some simple cases rule-based. After the first case, they said, okay, by the way, now I want you to use the data, to learn with it. They understood. And that's also something. When they work with us, they get a feeling, it's demystified, and they are understanding, and together we are creating really good things.
Yeah, one gentleman that I was speaking to on an earlier podcast, he was saying how he doesn't love the term artificial in AI. He likes to think of it as augmented, the A. And it's, I talk to people all the time, and, sort of, I think of AI as maybe sort of this stepwise thing where perhaps first is really just automation. Do as much as you can to automate tasks that are normally done by human beings, with very simple rules, things like that. The second would be one step beyond that is algorithm development, something fairly simple, maybe more rule-based, maybe introducing some of the modeling that goes into it. And then, to steal that other gentleman's term, augmented, where, humans are being assisted by the machines versus the machines fully automating the decision, or, fully taking on the decision. So any thoughts on that in terms of helping your stakeholders take a more stepwise approach to implementing models?
So I think the stepwise approach with automation, with bringing it to the decision points, is the thing we are doing, which we are scaling, which is something which helps to scale and get a huge benefit out of it. But you mentioned augmented intelligence. So in German, the problem is intelligence is always associated with smart. And what I'm also saying quite often is that artificial intelligence is everything but not smart. So especially compared to real people. And I think that's also an important thing. We can learn from data, but it's not like humans who can close the dots, do other things. And if the people know that they what to expect, they know how to handle. And so AI, we use it in the automation processes. We use it to bring together, but we discussed about GDPR, about compliance. Having full decisions in our processes by AI is something what I avoid at the moment. We supplement or support the people, because if we have fully automated processes with an AI-based decision, the AI needs to be some kind of risk taker. And especially with the fancy models. And it's about people. It's highly regulated by the European Union now, also our industry. It's a high risk that something is happening. So at the moment, we focus on supporting the people in a higher automation rate. But in the end, the claims handler or someone will have the last decision based on his experience and the information of AI. But that's also something might be different in the future. But even automating this, bringing it together. So we build a model that was reading 500,000 pages in 8 hours, where we find extra money in some of our books. No one could have read that. That's something where it can help. Nevertheless, if we identified a case, a claims handler will have a look and check if it's really something or if it's by accident or whatever. So the human loop is still in there.
Nice. So, yeah, you've touched on this concept a few times in our discussion today, in terms of claims and fraud. We've mentioned the economic conditions and the inflation. Let's talk a little bit about, given the higher cost of living and this pressure on a centralized cost center. If an AI group is a cost center, tell me a little bit about what you were doing to try and recognize fraud. The claims costs might be going up because supply chain components are more expensive to do the repair. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you and your team are helping combat some of that?
So we are doing different things. One thing is many of the documents we are getting are still paper-based. So all kind of invoices from repair shops. There we can use AI to identify the real cost and to see, is there inflation? How did it go up? To get this kind of data. That's something which is quite easy, but which needs to be done. Also on a line item base, because we normally have it aggregated for sure, but in the past it wasn't looked per line item. Now we check how the line items change also to see some changes. Besides that, we are looking at our processes. We try to become faster. We try to also see where maybe are costs on the invoice which are not needed. There we are in the fraud topic. So that's something. We have high volumes. If we find small amounts, it still is summing up. So this is something where we can be successful, but we are also doing interesting stuff. So what my team did, for example, in claims to identify also fraud in general, we got process data, we used some AI models, we used process mining packages, got the process mining results back and used this as input for an algorithm again to identify if we have some kind of fraud in the processes. So there are interesting things that we are doing. In the end, claims is one of our biggest costs. So we want to see where do we need, where can we help. But another focus which is important in claims, it's all about empathy. So we need to support the people where they are really needed. And we need to make sure that they get money when they have their accident or whatever. So it's not only about cost saving, it's also about fast solving. And if we identify fraud in between, I think it's good for all of us. But it's also about having the customers and solve a case quite fast.
Nice. So let's move into sort of the final segment of today's episode. If you are thinking over the next 3 years, especially in your industry, what types of advancements or predictions do you have for the state of AI, especially as it pertains to insurance?
So for me, AI, many people if they talk about AI, they say it's innovation. For me, AI is a commodity. So in the next 3 years, we need to lever AI in all kind of processes. We need to scale, we need to bring it in to get more efficient processes, to be faster for the customers, to be more cost efficient and stuff like that. So for me, it's scaling. It's bringing it, trusting it to all kind of stakeholders. Besides that, there are some fancy topics where we also will invest. So better voice, better understanding. But the most interesting part for me will or is the IoT topic. So if it's now car data, if it's now machine data from our insured companies, if it's health data from wearables, if we have the right cases, or if it's sensor data from some other machines, this will be also interesting and can be some kind of changer, because with this data, insurers, but also our partners can do different things. And this has huge potential for the whole industry, because if I look at the claims process again, if I'm with a car and know there is an accident, we can call them and say, by the way, the accident was quite hard. I stay in line till the repair is coming and the ambulance, because we are not sure that you have something serious. So we will stay there. Besides that, if we know the accident, we know where it is. We can send a spare car or something like that directly to the customers. Besides that, it's also interesting for recommendations, for upselling. So we have a huge potential. And in the end, I haven't seen that many disrupting models for industries, but some of our other BUs, they built one case where they said we are insuring a company, and based on AI, based on better results, we can do benchmarks. We see if there are problems. And now they see, by the way, in this process, the last 3 times you had an error or problem in there. And we can sell or we can provide now other services. And I think that's the thing where we need to see how we can switch in something like that. We have the potential. And besides that, our biggest thing for the customers is that we are there, that we have empathy. And this is also something, if we can warn them upfront, instead of getting them into the risk, warning them, be there again, support our claim handlers to see the situations, to get some warnings, to be more proactive. I think that's something where AI can help. Are we a company that is building the next GPT model on our own? I doubt it. We don't have the training data. We don't have the technical skills. So we will buy in some services, but nevertheless, the things we use, we want to scale, we want to replicate, and we want to use it in an industrialized way. So yeah, like the
Nice.
companies are doing in
So,
industry and replicate.
yeah. I'll quickly just kind of unpack two things that you mentioned. The first that you mentioned was AI is, you think of it as a commodity. And when I think of a commodity, I think of something that's A, readily available, and B, addressable by anyone, right? And so something that, in terms of readily available, like AI models that you can deploy throughout your business, and then addressable by anyone, meaning, getting back to that notion of AI doesn't need to be something only available to a highly trained data scientist, that you're going to get you know the ability to build models from business stakeholders who might be less technical, but they understand the business better perhaps than the technical resources do. Is that how you see it? So that's thing one. And then you mentioned IoT. And in my mind, IoT, you've got an interesting thing, which is as sensor data comes in, if you flow it all the way into some kind of central processing engine, you need to make a decision and maybe round trip something back to the device or to the sensor, right? To maybe shut down the production line because something's overheating or whatever. Or you push the AI to the edge of the network, and it's now at the sensor itself, and the sensor is more intelligent and can actually make decisions on behalf of the broader enterprise.
So, with the second thing, with edge technology, in the end, we are an insurance company. We need partners. So, I doubt that we will be the ones who are able to define what is on the edge. We have some cases with our, for example, industry partners where we can discuss about sensors, about things to mitigate risk, to get them also connected to us. But at the moment, I don't think that we are the ones who will say, by the way, in this machine, it's an edge model. So there we will have partners. That's what I personally believe. So if we work together with the car companies, it's them who own the platform, but it's us to decide with them how to process the thing. So we might be able to provide some rules to do things, and we need to define this kind of ecosystem. So I think there we need to team up, and that's okay because our core was data, our core was risk, our core was insuring the people. So it's not being a technology provider for edge technology. But even with this potential and also with the available partnerships, I think there are many things to change. And when you say about the commodity, so for me, we have solutions where we enabled normal people to extract data from documents with AI. We have some easy to use interfaces. This can be easily combined with robots. So we define standard processes for APIs. They can roll it out. They can deploy it. It's part of our change advisory board processes. This is there. Also, some things where we say we want to use chatbots, we want to use voice. There are core functionalities that can be used. Is everyone a data scientist? No, but the people know how to use some kind of stuff, to whom to go, and the solutions we have, they are easily to scale, they are easily to use. So for me, this is kind of the commodity aspect. It's not there that everyone can use a pen and write, but nevertheless, if you know how to write and what's there, you can use a pen, you can use a pencil, you can use whatever. And that's what we are doing. We are giving them standardized tool sets, and it's not magic anymore. It's work.
Nice. All right. Well, the final question. So, there are a lot of people that watch these episodes and we get feedback of one of the questions they seem to value the most is, how did the person being interviewed, how did they get started in data and AI? What advice would you give to somebody that has aspirations to have a career in data and AI? So maybe a little bit about your personal path to where you are today, and what kinds of things would you share with somebody that's maybe earlier in their career and wanting to perhaps be the CDO of a major insurance company in the future?
So I think the most important thing for me was I was always looking out for my bosses. So I wanted to have people that support me, that enable me, that give me the chance to jump into the water and swim. Nevertheless, they were there if something might happen. So look for people that you trust, that believe in you, and where you have a good feeling. I think that's the first starting point. Besides that, if you go to data and analytics, there are two ways. One is nowadays the classical data science approach, that you come from the AI topic. The other thing is where I started, from data warehousing, data governance, coming to more and deeper analytics. But I think what helps you in the end to be successful on a higher level, there it's not about you are the best modeler, you are the best data guy. There it's you need to show the people that you understand, that you are not talking for the sake of talking, that you help them and that they can trust you. So the higher you get, the more you also need to be there for the people, convince them. My day is full of talking. No one provided me with this information when I started. Nevertheless, it's really about convincing. And so I would say, besides some senior roles in data and AI, where you say, I want to be the senior data scientist, senior architect, communication, bringing together the people is one of the most relevant skills. And there we come back to the bosses. If you have a boss that gives you trust, you have the chance to work proactively, to talk to the people. So in the end, do what you love, have fun with it, because if you like what you do, success will come on its own. And if you have the right people around you, you will be successful. And one last thing, what I think is important, trust experience. So don't do something new because you want to do it new. Also listen to older, experienced people. And also say thank you, because you wouldn't be nothing without a team that is supporting you.
That's great words of advice. All right, Michael Zimmer, Chief Data Officer of Zurich Insurance Germany. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate you being on Champions of Data and AI.
Thanks for being here.